hello, Trish Jenkins here, and a trucker's just pulled up and tooted and made my dog growl, and he's about to bark. It's all right. It's not for us, Dash. You may remember Dash from other broadcasts that we've done. Nope, he didn't bark. That's good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm very excited about today because it is about resilient marketing, and Dash is the head of marketing in my company, and he may or may not join us. But who is definitely joining us is Mike Noone. G'day, Mike. How are you?
G'day, Trish. Nice to be here.
Great to be here. Yeah, I'm so glad to talk to you because marketing has been much harder these days with COVID. We've all had to shift how we're doing things. So we are going to meet Mike and talk to him about his resilience and also resilient marketing right after this.
The strongest prison bars are in your head. Leaders and teams, it's time for a jailbreak.
And welcome back. We are live. We're on two places in Facebook. We're on YouTube and we're on LinkedIn. So we're on the Trish TV page. And while you're here, if you would like to please like and subscribe, comment, particularly comment. You are very welcome to share the comments as we go by, and I will be able to share them on screen. Nice ones, of course. With some if we have to filter them out, my apologies, but you know, it is a family show. So, well, it's a business show. We try to keep it professional. So if you're there and you want to say g'day, say hi to Mike, and if you've got a question that you'd like to pose, then you're very welcome to do so. So Mike, we had a great chat about your life in Thailand and how you had that very successful business. But you know, sometimes we talk to people who are so successful, we don't imagine them crashing and having to face the hard things like the rest of us, but they do. So please tell us about yourself and your story.
Okay. My background was in project management, and I was running a counselling practice in southeast London for about 13, 14 years. Then my partner died, so I went to Thailand and I sat on a rock and sort of contemplated life. And over a space of probably about 12 months, we were working with an Australian guy called Ed Dale, and we're doing some very advanced SEO, search engine optimization, and on a quite competitive keywords. And we had huge amounts of traffic, and things were good. We had the big house, we had the swimming pool and the jacuzzi and the enormous lounge. It was like a ballroom, and all the good things in life. Going out to eat out every night. And then Google changed its algorithm, and we went from having maybe 250 different pages at number one on page one of Google to not being able to find them anywhere. And then shortly after that, the global financial crisis came along and wiped us out. So that was interesting.
My goodness. So what happened? Google changed its algorithm, and your whole business just went away.
Just evaporated overnight.
Wow.
In the space of less than an hour, we went from getting like 14,000 hits a day on the website to not being able to be found anywhere on the internet, which is quite interesting because we put all of our marketing, customer acquisition into organic search, and we had no backup plan. And to add insult to injury, shortly after that, we had to downgrade our web hosting to a cheaper program, if you will. And our web host probably lost about 3/4 of our site, so it was just an absolute nightmare.
Oh, my goodness, that just must have been. And I know, you said you were, did counselling work, and so you would have the skills to go through and process those things, but you still got to take the kick in the guts when that happens. just to the horror of realizing, like, was that immediately realized, or was it like a slow, I know as we went through a liquidation and lost everything, it was like death of 1,000 cuts, that it was like, oh, well, it can't get any worse than this, and then it does. And you've got to live with that over a period. Is that what it was like, or was it more like a shock in the face?
I think it probably took about a week for it to really sink in. So we packed everything up. I probably burned about $5,000 worth of documents, like training documents that I'd accumulated, because I just couldn't afford the air freight, and came back here to New Zealand and found that, I'm a POM, and Kiwi companies didn't want to employ foreigners, and there was no jobs about in my former trade anyway, so it was really tough time.
Oh my goodness! So I'm imagining it's like when I tell my story, you tell it in a few lines because you just want to mention it in order to get to somewhere else. But just moving back, the feeling that you had, I remember finding it hard to have to choose and get rid of, university assignments that you've slaved over. It's like, this is my life. It's my blood, sweat, and tears has gone into that, and I've got to dispose of it. Back in the days of paper and books and things. Like, what were you feeling as you watched it burn, or were you in that other zone of numbness that often happens after a tragedy?
It was just like, where the heck do we go from here? And you are, when all of your revenue has been all your revenue streams have been wiped out, and all of the other assets and things you built out have been wiped out by a global financial thing, and it's just like, what do we do next? So you're just in a state of shock for a while till you kind of get your act together and go, okay, let's regroup, rethink, and start all over again. And that's what it's about, being resilient, about believing in the value of what you've got to offer the world, and just getting back on that horse and giving it a good spank and saying, away we go.
And that's exactly right. And you talked about not having all your eggs in, you had everything involved in that one business, and that's not what you would do the next time. Your advice, the lesson in that, just expand on that for me with people.
Okay. One of the things that a lot of businesses do is they rely on maybe one revenue stream, and that's not a bad thing if it's the right revenue stream. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit further on in this interview. But it's relying on one source of traffic. It's relying on one source of getting customers through your door, which is quite dangerous. And if you look at what happened, with the recent sort of COVID-19 thing, and unless you're deemed to be an essential business, i.e., you're a large supermarket chain or a pharmacy, basically the government said, hey, you're going to have to close your doors. That's all right. We'll lend you a few dollars. And I think the good thing that's come out of this whole COVID thing is business owners have sort of realized that they have to diversify, and a lot of them have been forced to go online, which is a good thing. In some ways, there's also downsides to that as well, because it makes it a very, very crowded place and very difficult for businesses to stand out. So,
right. My goodness. And at your stage of life, what stage of life were you at when everything came to a halt?
I'd have been in probably my early 50s.
Wow. Wow. And so you went from having all the things that younger people aspire to and are working towards, with having the nice house and living in Thailand. It doesn't cost as much to live that lifestyle, but it's a beautiful choice of lifestyle to actually be in it. But then, because that was a great country to be in when you did have money, but then you're in a foreign country with nothing.
That's
with
right.
nothing, and you can't even return you can't even bring your source of income home, your books, your records, your resources. You couldn't even bring those to start again with those. So yeah, it's so true. And so many people, even just to have a single job, you know, yes, there are other jobs, but a person who relies purely on just having a job, and there's nothing wrong with having a job. It's a noble thing to have a job, be grateful for a job. But it's important to be continually upskilling and having other things that you can do should that come to an end, whether you're working for someone or whether you have your own business. So having multiple sources of income is really, really important, and or continually upskilling yourself so that you can, like, imagine if you're an airline pilot and then you're stacking shelves at Coles. Nothing wrong with stacking shelves at Coles. It's been great that people created a jobs board. They created a job for themselves by creating a jobs board for people who had lost their jobs due to COVID, which I think was fabulous. So it's amazing how innovative people have had to be, but they've got to have that right mindset. And you also said, and it's not often, you know, some people think, oh, you've had that one adversity and then everything was, you know, you sort of grew from there. But as you and I both know, you can go through something really awful and you make a bit of progress, and then there's a disappointment, and you make another bit of progress and there's a bit of disappointment, and it's not a smooth ride up, because you touched on it when you said that nobody wanted to hire you, and there you are in your 50s trying to get a job in New Zealand, and you're a POM. You know, so you're a foreign. In your words, you called yourself a POM. It's not really a bad thing. People listening, it's really not a bad, although it probably is these days. So apologies if it is. But you were an outsider. You were a foreigner, and they're going to more likely hire local. And you also have the aspect of ageism in the workplace. That who are they going to hire? So that was another disappointment, that you had thought you might have been able to enter the market. How did you go with that? That's a rejection around who you are as a person, your demographic too. So how did you handle that as opposed to an external force causing a problem? Your mindset, how did you go with that?
It was interesting because I got on the plane at Dar es Salaam in northern Malaysia. I can't remember the name of the country. And they had a copy of the British Daily Mail or the Daily Mirror. As just you got on the plane, I was reading this, and it was saying, you know, New Zealanders are revoking people with permanent residence visas and all this sort of stuff. And and I just thought, oh gosh, have I made the right move going back? And so it was just really, really frustrating, because you get forced into, like, you know, the system, and you have to go and, you know, sign on the dole and, you know, claim housing benefit and all this sort of stuff to pay for your really cold, damp little flat in the hills of Wellington. And and you think, gosh, you know, just a few weeks ago I was living in this mansion in Thailand. And it's a real it's a real mindset shift that needs to be made. But, you know, humans are immensely adaptable, and, you know, we are very, very resourceful, and we're resilient, and so you just have to adjust course and, you know, start all over again. And, you know, I've started over several times. I mean, I've lost everything 3 times and started again from zero. 3 times.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. You know, I've lived in bus stops in southeast London in January. It was no fun, but there you go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, they do say that people who are really, really successful have often lost their fortune several times, and they have the skills and confidence to get up again. But some people lose their fortune and they lose their confidence altogether, and they just never recover. And so it's really important to have tools to recognize what you've said. Humans are resilient. We are resilient. We just need to tap into it and firstly recognize that you are more resilient than you believe. That if you're feeling defeated, you're a member of the human race. You are more resilient. It is in you to get up again. It's just, you've just got to find a different way to look at what you're going through and look at who you are. Somebody else rejecting you is not a reflection. Like, you were rejected from jobs due to your nationality and your age, but you had enough confidence to know your value and that you could get up again, whereas for someone else it might finish them. So it's all in how you look at things, isn't it?
Yeah. I was listening to something online yesterday, or late last night actually, and what the guy said was, what is more important to you than somebody else's opinion of who you are? That's just really profound. And he was also suggesting things like, when you are looking at opportunities, you've got to ask yourself, how much is it worth to me to give up something as precious as my life to do this thing? And that is a very, very different sort of perspective to what I see amongst a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners. They'll take any client just to get some cash flow, and there's nothing wrong in that. We've all got to take care of the bread and butter, the kids' shoes, the roof over our head.
Right.
But you've also got to be looking forward at, okay, who is my best client? Who is the client that I like working with? Because I know a lot of business owners, they hate their clients because
goodness, yeah. And then you're stuck with them, and whatever you say yes to, you are automatically saying no to something else or someone else. So you could be missing out on the client that you do want because you're too busy trying to please the ones that it reminds me of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your benefit usually comes from 20% of your clients, and 80% of your headaches will come from 20% of your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So that they're just so absorbing. That's just so true. Wow, that's great. So I'd like to explore what you do for your clients as well in the second part of our interview. So I have your website up, and we'll just give us a summary of how you benefit, what you do for your clients, and then we'll visit your website and explore it a bit more.
One of the first things I do for my clients is I get them to work out who is their best customer, because as I just finished saying, there are so many people who will waste your time, they'll take your resources, but most importantly of all, they will take the only resource in your life you cannot buy, beg, borrow, or steal, which is your time. And so what we do is we'll go through an exercise and we'll work out what their income goals are, their revenue goals, and from there we then identify the best revenue streams. But before we even get there, there's an exercise which we go through whereby we work out what the best customer is. And there's actually one of the resources on my website is called the 5 pillars, and that takes you through the 5 most important things, in my opinion, in business.
That's really helpful, because quite often we don't really know how to describe our best customer because probably we haven't met them yet. People talk about your avatar. Like, if you could create an avatar, if you could create a person, and it might be men aged between 40 and 60 who have a certain type of health issue, who want to do this, do that, and you might even give them a name. And that way, it's not that you're just looking for those people, but when you market to the wide aspect of your bell curve, the fat part of the bell curve of the market, you're going to find more of those. Does that sound right?
Basically, there's something I want to clarify here at this stage, is the difference between marketing and selling. And so if you imagine there's a line, and at that point there is point 1, and that point there is point 100. And so at point 1, that's where people go, I really need a green widget. So they'll then spend the time between point 1 and around about point 80 on that timeline, look at all the different options for green widgets, all the functionality, all the emotional benefits. Will my neighbors look at me and envy, and all this sort of stuff. And then between about 80 and around about 97, they're still looking around again. So who's going to give me the best deal? Who's got the best quality? Who's got the best guarantee? And around about point 97, they make a decision. And that decision is, I'm going to buy it from Bob's Hardware down there on the high street. And they make that decision. From 97 through to 100 on that buyer's timeline, people have already made the decision to buy. So that's where the low-hanging fruit is.
Yes.
And it's where 95% of all businesses target their advertising and marketing budget at the low-hanging fruit. But they're leaving the other 97% of it alone. And what marketing should do is it should make your product or service very attractive to people. It should make you stand out as being not just the best choice, but as being the only choice, because you have spent the time thinking through what it is that your customers, your clients, your prospects really want, rather than just blithely say, well, we've got the best green widgets in the world, so hey, that's what they're going to buy. And
right. Oh, gosh. Now, listen, Mike, I just want to intercept there, where this is a reflection of your wisdom that has come through years of experience, that has come through your story, and what I believe what you're also saying is that they bother to care about not just the product, but care about that customer and what they want.
Oh, yeah.
As much as closing the deal, because it is that depth that comes from your history. And I want to bring up this gentleman, David Frank, has made a comment on LinkedIn, saying thanks for sharing your amazing story. And it is really interesting. It is a great story, and I want to link the two. I didn't want to interrupt you when you were on a roll, but I wanted to bring this back, because when you go through difficulties, it makes you think. It gives you pause to really consider what matters. And so that point that you made just then, so thank you, Frank, for your comment. That it really is an amazing story. It's a very humble story. You're not just here to. I don't want to bring people on who are just going to show off and brag about how successful they are. That's why it's about the resilience story. So what you've just you're sharing now is not just a marketing strategy. It's a mindset that has a real person at the other end of it, not just a dollar sign. So well done, Mike. That's good. That's just one of those tips.
Well, the thing is that I think in the very, very crowded marketplace that most business owners have found themselves thrust into now, which is on the internet. Unless you've actually got to care about your customer and their experience more than you care about getting the sale. And by doing that, you're basically demonstrating to people that you can help them, and you do that by actually helping them. And it's just, and it separates you from all the people every day I get a dozen emails from people on LinkedIn. Oh, do you want me to do your SEO and this, that, and stuff? No, I don't. And so that's the thing is, if you are in any business now, you are competing with the whole world. You're competing with people in Bangalore, in Vienna, in New York, in San Francisco. They're all competing for your business, and the internet has kind of leveled the field.
Yeah. It really is. Yeah. Now, look, in the time that we've got left, I want to make sure people know what your website is. Noonemethod.com. There's an E in the middle. Noone with an E method.com, and I'm going to show everyone that website. Let's go there now. So here we are, and I'm going to. I'll just remove my bits off there. So noonemethod.com. Now, where would you like us to go with this, Mike?
Probably the most sensible place to go is to the resources tab, because there's
resources. There we go.
Really good resources available for people there. They're free. I mean, I don't even want your email address or your contact details. It's just part of us, giving back to the business community, because I know how hard it's been hit. I talk to people every day, and they're just saying, I'm in deep trouble, and
wow.
So it's just our way of sort of paying it forward. And some people may want to take it further. There's at the end of the
You've got it.
Okay. Each of these resources, there's a place where you can go and apply for a conversation to talk to me, and I'll take you through.
I love that. I love that you've got resources there before people have to sign up for something. So you've got a download, you've got a decision-making system, I see. You've got your 5 pillars, which we don't have time to go into today, but you will be able to find those on Mike's website. And please get in touch with Mike and have a chat with him about how you can make the most of your market. And one of the things that I remember you saying, that resonated with me was never let a good crisis go to waste. You don't ever want to do that. You can come back up. You can come back up. It's just, life is full of curveballs. Yeah. It's full of curveballs, but when you can be resourceful like Mike, and you can turn things around no matter what stage of life you're at. It just requires the right mindset. So by all means, contact Mike and see what he might be able to do for you. And if you are connected to an organization that puts on conferences and workshops, Mike does some trainings. And if you want to build your resilience and have a better mindset, then I do those things too as a keynote speaker. So think of me when you're thinking of who you'd have for your conference speaking. Think of Mike if you'd like to get some help with your business marketing. I know he's actually been a big help to me as well. So Mike, it has been an absolute pleasure having you come and share with us. It's just been great. It's been encouraging. It's been such a beautiful story. My favorite part is hearing people's actual stories and how they get up again. That's why I sort of drill into, but what did that feel like? And how did you deal? How did you deal? It's just wow. So thank you for joining us, everyone. By all means, please remember to subscribe, make a comment, even in the replays, they will still come up, and stay in touch. All right, bless you heaps, everyone, and we will go out with a bang with our song and video. Well, not a song, with our video promo. And Mike, thank you so much for being part of the program.
Thank you for having me on the program, Trish. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been my very great pleasure.